Katrina's Creations Wednesday edition. Today we are going to be talking about color work and how to do it. So I'm working with black and white yarn, and you should be able to see very well what I've got going on. Now you're going to be working with both strands at the same time, which means you're going to be doing traditional knitting or throwing, but your left hand is going to be doing continental knitting. Now, not to get confused or stressed out about this, it actually is not as hard as it looks. I'm going to be holding my yarn. Whatever color is the main color for the row that I am working on, so we'll say that for right now it is black. If you are a continental knitter, you're going to hold that main yarn in your left hand. If you are traditionally a thrower like I am, or just your traditional knitter, your main color you're going to hold in your right hand. So if it calls for the color white, you're going to do a continental stitch, and then you're going to do your next stitch traditionally with your black. Like this. So I have 3 black stitches, and now my pattern would call for a white stitch, so I will go in and do a continental stitch there. So as you can see, I'm mixing the colors as I go, and I'm holding them with my tension in both hands. Now when you look at the back, when I first started this sweater, I was just, you can see these longer strands going across here. I'm just holding, this is roughly about 3 stitches. I'm just carrying the white thread because this was a black stitch and these were black stitches on this side, right here. Right here, these are the black stitches, these are the white stitches, but they're the reverse on this side. So I'm carrying that white thread behind as I'm knitting black stitches. Like I said, these are only 3 stitches, so it's not a big distance. This is only maybe a little over 1/4 of an inch. However, if you look over here though, I'm getting into doing about 5 stitches across. Now the thing with stranding, and some people that's all they do is just strand the yarn behind them. In other words, just carry it like what we've been doing, like right here. However, if you don't watch your tension, it can cause the front of your work to pucker, and you can see that mine has just a little bit right in here. You have to be very careful that those strands that you're carrying in the back are not being pulled too tight, or it's going to gather the yarn. So if you really struggle with that, there's a way to avoid that. And so when I have long strands in between, say it's like 5, I basically weave the back as I knit. So I'm going to show you what I do. Okay, so say I am stranding this white is going to be carried along the back. So the first stitch, you can see, I'm going to hold it like this. The first stitch, my black yarn is in front of this white, and I'm just doing a regular knit stitch. The next stitch, I'm going to move my white yarn so that I'm wrapping the black around the back of it. So it's basically encased between the stitch. So it's still showing up as black here, but in the back the stitches are caught, the strand is caught between the stitches. So the next stitch I would go through the front. The next stitch I would wrap the black around the back and do my stitch. So I have circled basically the strand. What this does, if you look at the back here, you can see here's one that's stranded. These are not. These only carry about 1 stitch behind them. So it keeps these long strands from getting in the way. So I'm going to do a little bit of stranded knitting here. This can also be called color work, Some people call it Fair Isle, although this is not traditionally Fair Isle. Fair Isle is stranded, but stranded is not Fair Isle. Fair Isle has specific patterns or motifs that traditionally go with it all the time. So again, you're going to be carrying your main color for that particular row in your right hand, or whichever you use the most. Like I said, if you're a continental knitter, then you're going to make most of your stitches coming as a continental stitch. Continental stitching I can do, but it is not my main stitching. I am a thrower or English knitter. So I would be doing this, and then when I get to a stitch that's going to call for the white, then I do my continental stitch. And when these go together following patterns, you end up with different motifs all the way around. And you are actually only ever working with 2 colors at a time. And you can see, I mean, this sweater actually called for 3 colors, and what would happen in that case is I would just be dropping one of the colors, and say the next row is like white and gray, then I would just be dropping the black, doing that row, and then picking it back up again. But you can see that this is going to create like some diamond shapes that I'm working on. And here it is here. This is the one you can see a little bit of puckering here, because this is where I was stranding. You can see the longer strands here. I was carrying them from 5 stitches, and that's when I started noticing that I was tensing them up a little bit. This will block out when I block it. It will straighten itself out, but it's just something to be cautious of, which is why I tend to do the other technique when it is a long carried strand. So this particular pattern that I am using is called Pearls du Nord. It is a free pattern by Drop Designs, and they have many other colorwork patterns. And if you've never tried colorwork before, it is a fun thing to do. I would try a hat first, just something simple, until you kind of get the hang of it. But after that, it's very fun. You just need to be able to follow a chart very closely in order to do it. So hope you've enjoyed the tutorial on stranded or colorwork knitting, and I'll see you again on Saturday. Thanks for watching.